To celebrate our 2 years for Willow's channel, I thought I would do a little, just a walkthrough of behind the scenes of one of our walks. So to get started, I put together some little treat dispensers for the dogs. It's gonna be a little bumpy trying to do this one-handed. But Murphy gets this one here while Willow and I go and walk. I just put a little handful of treats in there for him. And then get one of these little balls ready for Willow. For when we get back, she'll get this. So to get going, Bubba gets this. There you go. And Morticia there. Always wear my boots, whether it's 90 degrees out or 10 degrees out. I'm always wearing my boots. The weather, again, trying to set my phone. It's not working well. The weather, mosquitoes, bugs, snakes, you name it, always require boots. I cover myself head to toe even if it's 90 degrees out. I wear a mosquito net hat, try to keep the sun off of me. Somebody's very excited to go. And next thing I'll do, I will check the weather, and right now I'm showing that it's 42 out, so that means that she does not need a jacket. Anything 34 and below, I have her wear a jacket. This is our gear that we choose from before we go out. So since it's day, all she's going to need is a spiked collar. We do have glow collars then for dawn and dusk walks. I built this ramp out of scrap lumber to help both of them, since Willow is going to be 13 next month and Murphy is 16. All right, I don't know if this is lined up or not. Get her collar on her. And then we head out. You can see she's really excited. She likes to check this stump here because sometimes I will put bread and stuff out for the birds. And there's usually squirrels along through here. There's a little ditch. Like a culvert that runs across the driveway here. She's always got to check that out because critters usually get down in there. Come on, let's go. But through here, there's usually some correcting that has to go on. Willow, over here. Willow, good girl. Good girl. I don't, Willow, no. I don't want her getting over in the neighbor's yard. So just along this section, I continue to correct her, and she's usually pretty responsive. Nope. No, you leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Come on. No. Willow, leave it. No. Leave it. Leave it. No. Leave it. Willow. She's always got to pee before she responds to me and listens, but she wants to go see Charlie. Come on, Willow. Come on. Come on. Good girl. I know. But the fact that I don't have to put a leash on her to keep her from going over there, it makes me proud of her. Just some strong leave-its and no's, and that tends to do the trick. But my compost pile, if you want to call it that she always checks out, it's a hole where the previous owners used to keep their dogs chained, and the dogs dug a hole there, so I just try to fill it in with scraps and eventually have that even out. But I'm sure there's got some smell. It has some smells to it, so she always likes to sniff it and pee on it. And I'm gonna pause while she goes potty. Okay, we're back at it. So all of these trails, I maintain them in the summer, actually all year. There's a lot of, just a second, we're going potty again, gonna do one more pause. All right, the maintaining of the trails, I do have to trim back a lot of that overgrowth, and it catches on me a lot when I mow in the summer. So again, I'm always wearing jeans and usually a windbreaker, no matter what the temperature is, just because there's a lot of prickers. So a lot of the stuff I trim off, you can see these piles of brush here. Sometimes I burn, sometimes I put them in the piles. The critters like to stay in there, so I use it for homes. Man, she's really going potty. One more time, sorry. Her routine was thrown off a little bit this morning. I had to leave the house very early, so she didn't get her normal walk, and things are just a little bit out of whack. So that's probably why so many potty breaks. But yeah, I call this Chipmunk Alley because the chipmunks really like to live in these little bundles of brush that I make. And through here, where you see all these leaves dug up, she's going after some squirrels. I'm pretty sure it's the deer and the squirrels digging through looking for acorns. There's a lot of acorns through here, and my understanding is that deer and squirrels both like them. This here is an old pig barn, from what I'm told, from the previous owners. They used to have those, some kind of Highland cows, those orangish ones with the long shaggy hair and horns. All of these leaves where the critters have been digging up looking for acorns. And she likes to eat the poop. Just a second. Willow, no, drop it. Don't understand that, but back through here there are, I can never remember the name of it. I always call them creek weasels. But muskrats live along this and really tear up the bank. And I'll see if I can find one of the posts right here. Here is an old post from the fence from the cattle, and you can see the angle that it's at. That's how much it has eroded over the years down into the creek. Those used to be upright. But the muskrats you can see trails for them in the winter when they come out of the creek looking for food, I guess. And over here, every spring I see wood ducks in the creek. They're very skittish. It took me a couple years to realize what it was. So this past year, I installed a wood duck house, but I'm not sure if they would even have babies on this creek here or if they prefer a lake. But that's what that is. And this little, our little cabin, we try to stay out, sleep out at least one night when the weather's good. She just picked up a couple of burrs. Willow, hey, let me see. Let me see. Just watch, wait. Just watch the, I'm gonna set the phone down here. Good girl. All right, go ahead. Good job. All right. This little cabin, I got it off of Craigslist 5 or 6 years ago. It was already insulated, wired for electricity, done up on the inside. I think I got it for like $600. And my dad and brother helped me move it back here and set it up to get it up off the ground. And I built these wonky steps to get up to it. But it serves its purpose. We used to keep a tent over here at the campsite. It was set up permanently over for several summers in a row, and we would sleep in a tent. So this is definitely an upgrade. We have the solar to give us a little bit of power when we need to charge things. But when you hear the coyotes howling, that's definitely a little more comforting being in the cabin than in the tent. Yeah, it's not far at all from the house, but it is nice to have just that tiny little getaway. And a lot of these smaller trails, like this one we're going through now, it was a game trail, and I saw that the deer had been using it frequently and other small animals, so I actually just expanded it, did a lot of manual trimming with handheld nippers, and then brought the mower in and got it cleaned up to make it a little more walkable for us. And usually on our walks, I try to let her pick the way. We'll probably end up going across the bridge. And here, a set of bluebird houses. The tree swallows use them. Last year I had 2 bluebird nests in there and quite a few tree swallow nests. The bluebirds had a very successful season, but the tree swallows, since they primarily feed off of bugs that are flying, if it's a wet spring, then the bugs might be a little bit, the population might be a little bit decreased, so they're not able to feed the babies. And we did lose a lot of babies last year for the tree swallows, but all of the bluebirds did great. But this bridge here, it was really in poor shape when I first bought the house about 6 years ago. And a couple years back, my brother, he got some phone poles, and I got this fresh sawn, or I guess rough sawn lumber from a local lumber mill. And my brother borrowed a friend's tractor, and we spent the July 4th weekend a couple years ago and took out the old bridge and built this new one, which he can actually drive one of those big white work trucks full of tools across this. That's how sturdy it is. And I think I actually spent more in screws than I did in the lumber itself. But so grateful for a family that has the knowledge and expertise how to do this stuff. The supports underneath it with railroad ties strapped together, reinforced with rebar. It's just a really, really solid bridge. She's waiting for us here. So all of this, again, I mow it probably over on this side. Since it does flood, it does make it harder to mow in the spring because it's just too wet to get the tractor over here. And it's pretty tall by the time I can finally, it's dry enough for me to finally be able to mow it. But I would say when I'm able to mow probably 2 times a week, just like with all of the rest of the property. So I do spend a lot of time mowing, but we really enjoy being out here. So for right now, it's well worth it just to be able to have these moments with her to be able to enjoy our walks. So back through here, this was actually not, all of this was a game trail. So this was a lot of work. She and I spent an entire winter back here. It's a lot easier to trim things up in the winter. And this bridge didn't used to be here. We would actually have to walk through the mud down there to get across. I had a couple cinder blocks with a board that we would use to get across. And eventually I replaced it. It's not like, can't hold a ton of weight, but it's enough to hold 1 or 2 people and her to get across. But all of this was just a game trail, very narrow, hard to get through. And the worst section of this whole piece was right through here. This was just completely overgrown prickery, those wild roses. That took us several days to get through here, but then it opened up a little bit and was a little bit easier. So if you see me while we're walking, sometimes the camera might go down. I'll be picking up a stick to get it off the trail, or just to snap one back out of the way. But she's so good. I love that I can just let her do her thing and she'll catch up with me eventually. But she was just smelling something back there, so she's a little distracted. And I guess while we're waiting for her, you can see there's a game trail back through here. Actually, it's not used too much right now, but the fence is right about here, the property line. But you can usually see that that's a pretty high traffic area there. Come on, Willow. And right here's another one. There's another section of creek that runs along here, and this trail kind of goes across the creek. I think there's one more of those trails over here somewhere. Maybe that's the prime one. But you can see the wood duck house where we just were, and then the little cabin. And here she comes. Good girl. All of this, when we get a lot of rain, it does get flooded over here. So this whole section back through the woods here, several times during the summer, I have to come through with a weed whacker and keep this trimmed down. And I always put that one off because I absolutely hate that job. My arms are just shaking by the time I'm done, and I'm so hot because I'm all covered up and wearing a hat and glasses and everything, trying to keep any debris from spitting out and hurting me. But I just get so hot when I'm doing that. It's my Probably my least favorite chore around here is weed whacking all of this from the time we cross the bridge through this whole loop. It usually takes 3 batteries for the weed whacker, and sometimes I let it go so long I have to do it in a couple of sessions because I need to charge the batteries again. But this fence here, you can see that's the old property line. I like to try to keep the bridges cleaned off. That's why I keep a broom by both of them. But because I've been recording our walks, maintenance has gone down a bit on trimming and the bridges, just because it's important to me to record this time in her life. I love having the videos to look back on. I just wish I had started doing it sooner, because she used to get it into a lot of shenanigans when she was young. And here's another game trail. Goes through the fence to the neighbor's property. I did cut the fence and I tried to get as much of the barbed wire out of all of the fencing, as much of that as possible. I hate that stuff. I understand the reason for it, but I don't like it, and I don't want the wildlife to get caught in it. I don't want Willow to get caught in it. But through here, the fence is completely trimmed back, and the neighbor that owns that property, he never goes back there, and he told us we can go back whenever we want. We do it more in the winter than in the summer. But the snow is pretty deep through here still. So she likes to follow right behind me because I'm packing it down for her. And I'm wondering what was through here. What kind of animal was through here? But this trail, we're not going to go on it right now because I do have to get back to work. But this is the one that loops around and then it kind of dead ends. And with that one, when I'm on the tractor, I have to do like an Austin Powers move and turn it around and come back. I just can't get the tractor any further. It gets very wet over here and it's very bumpy to where the tractor just could not make it. So I'd mow as far as I can, and that's always the last section to be mowed because it stays very wet, and there's usually a beaver dam over there too that doesn't help things. But here she comes. But where was I going with that? I don't remember. This section always floods pretty badly too when we get a lot of rain. But oh yeah, the reason for, even though it doesn't loop around anywhere, that trail, I still like to keep it mowed to make it easier for us to be able to keep an eye on the property. We try to hit the borders as much as possible just to make sure that there's nothing silly going on. And usually in the winter we try to, when things are really frozen, try to look around over in where those cattails and the tall grass is, but it's not frozen enough yet to where I feel comfortable taking her over there. And over here I did trim back a lot of the fence too. You can see a couple of fence posts from where the old barbed wire fence was. I trimmed a lot of that out because I saw that the animals were using that kind of as a little highway there. And this section over here is just a bunch of brush, really small weed trees, and the deer seem to spend a lot of time during the day there. More fence along here that I've trimmed back to allow access for the animals. And this barn up here, I adopted 2 cats through the working cat program, and they were feral, which is why it was through the working cat program, and they became the best of friends, Ojo and Trilo. And about 1.5 years ago, Ojo didn't come home. It was in April, and he didn't come home. They would come home every night, and I would come out and feed them and try to make friends. And after having them for about 1 year, Ojo started letting me pet him, and a couple months after that, Trilo started letting me pet him. Not really a lot, but just kind of touch him. And then when Ojo came up missing, I didn't want Trilo out there by himself, and I didn't want him to meet the same fate as Ojo. So I ended up trap training Trilo and used a live trap to catch him and brought him into the house, and he's been an indoor cat ever since. He actually lets me pet him and seems to really enjoy his life inside. But I had this little door in the window here for them to come and go. And when they were quarantining here, when they first moved in, sorry, I'm out of breath from going up that hill. I made this shelf here for them to sit and watch outside. And when they would come in through the door, then they had access to the barn where their food was up here. They had a heated water dish because the solar was in the barn at that time. And then I built these shelves for them to where they could get up to the loft, and there were all sorts of beds up there, whatever they wanted for beds. And they would usually spend the days out and spend the nights in the barn in their warm beds when it was really cold. And I built this little front porch for them. They used to sit on their front porch from time to time. And these steps are detachable. I did that to try to keep the possums and raccoons out. So the steps actually would slide further away from the porch. So whatever animal it was had to jump from here to there. It did a good job at keeping possums out, but the raccoons would still get in. And this here, I added this extension to put a live trap up against the entrance, so when a raccoon did come in or another cat that I wanted to trap and get fixed, then I could just sneak out and put that trap up when I knew that they were in the barn. And the birdhouses over here in the side lot, same thing for bluebirds. Bluebirds were very successful last year. The tree swallows were not quite as successful up by the house here too. So I really think it had something to do with the insects. But all my little trees that I have to maintain, I have the lines along the ones there. It's just Charlie that lives over there, that dog that you saw earlier. He's really usually pretty obnoxious. So I'd like those to grow up and kind of block, at least maybe dampen some of the sound that comes from over there. But I'm so proud of her. Whenever Charlie barks on that side or whenever Juniper barks on that side, she never responds. She doesn't react. She just keeps doing her thing, and it just makes me so proud of her. so I just had to have this tree come down. It makes me so sad, but it was interfering with the septic, so it needed to come down. So as soon as we get back to the house here, I take off her collar, and she's excited because she knows that she gets that treat when we get back inside. And when the weather's nicer, Murphy is usually out here waiting for us. But I shovel these little trails to help Murphy when we have a lot of snow. But his eyesight is so poor that I'm not even sure how helpful the trails are. But she has her door access. She's been using the ramp more lately, so she can come and go whenever she wants. And Bubba's usually sitting here waiting for us. But that's pretty much it. As soon as I get my coat and shoes off, then I will give her her treat and get back to work. Thanks for tagging along with us.